Hello everybody, my name is Altamir and we are doing yet another video, and today we're just going to be covering what's wrong with magic and necromancer. You know, just my thoughts on it. Maybe there's nothing wrong with it. Maybe everything's wrong with it. So let's get on into it, huh? Alright, so I've been playing Magic and Necromancer since it landed. Now I'm a little salty on certain things, so if I rant, I'm really sorry. But in terms of defensive and healing, Necromancer is just fine. It has plenty, except for this ability. Like, they need to fix this ability. What's wrong with this ability is it says after 2 seconds the totem begins fearing. No, it does not. Sure, it pulses after 2 seconds, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't fear anybody. So that's been broken for a little while. Um, but everything else, these all, I have no problem with any of these. No problem with the ultimates. Ultimates are fine. All these work except for that. Um, the problem I have is these abilities. The offensive abilities for Necromancer are lackluster. Um, as you can tell, I have 2 stamina morphs on my bar, and I'll tell you why. Um, but let's just start at the top here, at the top of active abilities here. This ability here is just too slow. It's a little hard to weave with light attack, but overall it's just really slow and you can see it coming. Like, I've obviously fought necromancers who use this ability, and it's a giant skull coming at you really slowly. You can dodge it. Not like Force Pulse and all these other spammables that just kind of hit you and you need to heal through it. This one you can dodge. It's about the only spammable in the game I can think of that you can dodge, because you just see it coming. um, this ability here, now, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, for all you other necromancers out there, the secondary effect on the magicka morph of this still does not work. What do you mean? Um, when Necromancer was in the PTS a long time ago, we're going back in the past. I was gonna make a noise there, but I feel like everybody would turn out the video who are actually still here. So we're in 2019. I think that was 2019. Don't think too much about it. We're in the Northern Elsewhere chapter, and we're in the PTS. Here's the kicker, guys. Blast Bones worked. Its animation worked, everything worked. The only thing that was bugged about it was the fact that it crit all the time. All the summons pets did. Sorcerers, wardens, they all crit all the time. So people freaked out. Instead of testing the counters to this, they just freaked. And the animation got changed because of those freakouts and people who didn't read the patch notes. And Blast Bones was broken for what, like a year, like something like that. It just didn't work. They finally fixed the animation, and it kind of works. But the problem is now, you know, the problem is now is that the secondary effect on the magic morph doesn't work, because that morph is, the longer the Blast Bones runs, the more damage it does. It doesn't really run anymore. You just summon it and it kind of jumps at the target. So because of that, it doesn't really the damage doesn't do anything. Um, Now, even so, still when you summon it, even today, it's like it gets confused. It's like my Blast Bones like inherited my ADD, and when I summon it, it goes, oh, shiny, and it's like, oh, I was supposed to be running, and it dies. It just, so that's a problem. But besides it having ADD or ADHD, whatever you want to call it now, um, the magical morph needs to be changed. I mean, to have this broken for as many years as it is ridiculous. Um, Now, this ability is situational. I do think the dot damage is probably where it should be, but it's pretty situational. Now, in terms of like the radius, I don't know. Like this is 6'2", so like seems to fit with other surface. I don't know what the warden one is. The ice spell that's circular radius. I don't know what that one is. But I think the damage with this is okay. I hate that the Grave Robber synergy that I can self synergize got nerfed into the ground. That kind of sucks. But it's a situational skill at best because it's not that big. People can avoid it. I'll show you really quick, and I gotta take off a piece of that. Yes, I'm doing the a-hole build. It's Mid-Year Mayhem. Deal with it. It's pretty much over anyway. So yeah. So I mean, it's not bad of an area, but I feel like it's situational. Like in a doorway, a chokehold. Like if a group was coming through here, I would drop it right here, and just so they're tagged, right? I mean, that's not too bad. I mean, so it does what it's supposed to do, but the problem is it's kind of ho hum. You know, it's really ho hum in terms of what it's supposed to do. Um, had it right. You know, it's situational. Like I said, it's situational at best. It's on my choke. I call it like a choke point bar that I have, like on bridges and stuff. Like I would definitely have this ability on that bar, but on a main bar, no, not anymore. Not now that the self synergy's gone. Now the self synergy, yes, a bomber probably can't use it. I mean, there's just better classes now, but you can still do it just for like it does additional damage, right? I mean, it's not as like knock your socks off as it was before, but it still does damage. So I mean, it's literally does what it's supposed to, but it's just, mm, like for mid year, putting this back on. For mid year, I wear Dark Convergence. Now, as you notice, I don't have that on my bar to proc Dark Convergence. Why not? Well, Dark Convergence, it slows people down, which is really great, and it does Major Breach, which is really great. I think the other morph of this does Major Breach, but it doesn't really slow anybody down. Yes, the damage is increased if you put it on corpses, which is why I say it's situational. If you put it in a doorway of a keep or a bridge where people are dying all the time, and you put this on top, it will do more damage. That's good, but it's like I said, it's. I'm not going to be a broken record. You know what word I was going to say. So yeah, and it usually stays here unless that particular situation comes up. Now this ability, I mean, I'm glad the cost was down. The cost was so high before. The cost was like 4K or something like that. I'm like, are you kidding me? It wasn't even worth unlocking. The problem with this ability is that the skeletal summons, both of them, they just pretty much attack whoever they want. They attack the closest enemy, which might not be the person you're hitting, especially in PvP, where if you don't see someone behind you, well, the skeleton does, and it's like, no, I'm trying to pressure that guy over there. He's low health. I needed you for him. So that's the problem with this one. The damage, I don't. The damage is meh, but dot damage is meh. And this isn't dot damage, but I mean, like, this is no different than other pets, really. The damage is kind of similar to Fetcher Flies, kind of. Um, I mean, Fetcher Flies has minor vulnerability, but which is great. But it's kind of similar as that, or the Sword pets. It's not much different than that. But again, it's a situational skill. I have this on my bar only for this ability here. It's literally only for this ability, so I can have more spell and physical penetration. That's it. So with the sets I'm wearing, my spell pen and is at 8.3. When this is up, it's at 9.8. It's the only reason why I have it on my bar, on my regular bar. It's certainly not for the damage, because the damage, the damage in terms of PvE is fine. It's actually good. And the damage is also pretty decent if you're in a duel or a battleground. If you're in a duel or battleground, then that ability, the skeletal summons will actually add a little pressure. Because you're in a more one-on-one situation, you can control what target that guy's hitting. In this one, I actually like this ability. I'm not gonna lie, I actually really do. I think it works just fine. I have no problems with this ability at all. I like that it has no cost. Thank you for that. But the issue is, you know, this is too slow. You can't slot it. You need force pulse, or you need the master staff so you can do clench. Um, this ability is kind of an unreliable burst. It's too slow when it forms. It doesn't always jump at the target when it's supposed to, and the secondary effect for magicka is kind of meh. It doesn't work. So there's no reason to morph it. If you're not gonna change it into the stamina ability, you might as well just leave it on morph. It's the same thing. Situational, situational, and good. So there's one, two, three, four abilities out of the active abilities that are just kind of like eh. And this one, the reason why I chose this morph is for pretty much only one reason. The magicka morph, it does frost damage to the ground 3 times, but the damage doesn't increase. It's just flat damage each time. It's like instead of 10 point, this one does 10.6, then 11.1, then 11.7. Frost damage is just 10.6, 10.6, 10.6. I like the fact that it rises up, Um, I do this because it has a secondary effect. It does major defile. Like, it has a secondary effect, which really comes in handy. You know, um, no, I mean, so that's the only thing really wrong with necromancer. If you think back, when was the last time necromancer was actually like powerful? And I'm not talking about bomber or the master staff build when people discovered that. I'm talking like it was like S tier, basically. Well, it's last time I remember anyway was when soul magic and entropy were overtuned. And I know we would just say, of course, it was overtuned, and then they have the rapid rot thing, which increases damage done with damage over time effects. Of course, it would be, like of course, Necker would be on top. But think about that for a second. Take away the fact that it's overpowered. 2 dots became slightly more usable, and Necro got better. So what the so what are you gonna do to make this class better? To make it okay that these are situational. Okay. The thing I can think of is speed this up, and on the third cast, it still deals 20% more damage, and it will still bounce up to 2 targets, but it also does dot to each target hit. Magicka morph of this does a dot for everybody hit, up to a certain cap. Obviously there's caps, right? And I think that's all you would have to do. You can add a dot onto the third. You can add a dot onto the magicka morph of this if you want to. But I think adding a dot onto these two, and maybe even that, I think would just make these abilities okay. because, like I said, this ability in PvE is fine. This ability in PvE is fine. It works. It works the way it's intended. This ability in Battlegrounds is actually really good because, and in duels is really good because you're more in a one-on-one situation. You can control who it's going after, and you get that extra penetration, which is actually really, really, really nice. Um, you know, and this, like I said, I have no problems with this ability at all. I don't. I like it a lot. So that's all I would do. I think that's all it would take. Three, what I think would be simple changes, but I mean, coding wise, I'm not taking that into consideration. Three simple changes. Add a dot, and I'm not saying, you know, add a dot to this on the first strike. No, just you can do it on the third. That's fine. If someone's dumb enough to stand there and get hit 3 times, they should probably pay for it. Third cast of this. Keep the damage, but make it where it adds a dot. Make the magicka morph of this, add a dot. Boom, done. And now this passive actually means something for one, because without it, you only have this ability and this ability that are dots. This is area. This is one person. This is, I guess, technically a dot because they say over 3 seconds, but it's really just direct damage 3 times. It's not technically a dot. So you have this one and this one that are dots. This is situational. And this, well, I like this. I've said that. So, I mean, it's just, I think that's all Necker would need. I mean, look at my bar. Look at my bar. This is my bar for Meteor Mayhem. This ability, I rarely cast this. I keep forgetting, and even when I do, he gets lost. So really, it's just this ability I cast all the time. One necromancer ability. Because I can't have this on my bar, I can't have this on my bar, and I can't have this on my bar. Not in open world PvP. I can't. My opinion. I mean, maybe other people have different opinion. But I just think if you add a dot to these three, that would make these abilities being situational okay. Because you may have a bar, like if you have still dressing room, I think it is, you could just have, your battlegrounds bar, that's where this is, or your choke point bar, that's where this is, or maybe even that's where these both are, you know. But I think that's all it would take to fix Necromancer. Speed this up, dot, dot, a magic morph, dot on the third strike. Well, this would be a dot on the third cast. And I want to emphasize, I'm not saying take away the bonus damage. No, keep that. The only thing that would be added to this tooltip is something right underneath, right underneath to other nearby enemies. It would say every enemy hit by the third cast, it gets X damage over X seconds. So yeah, I mean it's just I think it's just that simple. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm stupid. Wouldn't shock me. But I just think that this is kind of it's like so close. Because right now this morph doesn't this morph Jesus this passive doesn't really make a ton of sense. The only dot that is used probably 100% of the time in at least the Necromancer's class toolkit is this one. At least for me. I mean, maybe this increases dots of other abilities. Obviously, I think it does, but Entropy and Soul Trap are meme are I just say meme ability. I mean, the dot of this is okay. It's a very typical single target dot. That's what a single target dot damage does. The Arcanist one that's coming out does similar damage. That's what this does. I don't I don't think they need any more buffs. I'm okay with them not having Major Brutality and Sorcery. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them not having other debuffs or anything like that. I'm okay with that. Just give them more dots. You have a class here that has a dot passive and no dots. That makes no sense. Why don't you just, you know, put every third cast, your character, whips out a sweet roll and eats it. It's just as useful, you know. It's just it's maddening to the point where, and the thing that made me mad about this ability, which actually really got me to hate necromancer. I hate necromancer now. It went from my favorite class to my least favorite class. I'm literally just trying to get my character to. I'm trying to get my character to Alliance rank 50 so I can just retire it from PvP. I mean, it would still be the first character I do on new zones and, achievement hunting and stuff. Obviously, this is the character I would probably want because it's the character I've done the most on. But I can't wait to not play this in PvP. I've been playing since for those who don't know, I've been playing since 2014 and I've always been an alcoholic. It's been kind of like my nickname, because my name's Althamir. People would just call me Alt because I just change characters all the time. I play a different character all the time, but I started focusing and getting this necromancer up so I could just retire it. And what made me mad was um, when they fixed the animation for blast bones, and it worked at least like probably 80 to 90% of the time, which is good. I'm not arguing. If when they add the secondary effect and if they add a dot, please, for the love of God, don't change the animation again. I have issues with it, but I'd rather have it at least do what it, I'd at least rather have it do this, or go back to the original animation back in BTS because that was fine. Um, I don't know how, but this was like leaked, whether it was by a um, a stream team member or an old class rep or somebody who was, or maybe a Twitch channel. I don't know. I don't remember how I got this information, but it was released that Zos was aware that the secondary effect of blast bones doesn't work, but they weren't really concerned, and it wasn't on their list of adjustments because nobody was really complaining about it. People were still using that morph. They weren't saying anything. It's almost like they didn't notice. Well, they probably didn't, and that got me really, really angry. I'm like, I know there's bigger things because at that time COVID was going on. I think it just started, and they were going through all these unforeseen changes that were massive on their end. So I get it to that point, but it's like, really, you have a problem with an ability, literally doesn't work, and you're just like, F it, you know. So I was like, yeah, and that's the reason why I took like the year and a half or whatever off from this game. That and build fatigue. I was tired of rebuilding my necromancer because I don't really like stamina. I have stamina characters, they're fine, but I don't like stamina. I like magicka. But for the life of me, once I got bored of being a bomber, and being a necro bomber was fun, but once I got bored of that, I had nowhere to go. And I just kept rebuilding my character from scratch, like it felt like once a week. I'm like, well, this build's okay, but it really doesn't do what I want it to do. Well, this build's okay, but this build sucks, and that. So it was, and then all the hybridization changes were happening at that time, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And it was driving me nuts. So I took some time off. Yeah, that's pretty much what I. And like I said, a lot of people want this ability to be a spammable. I think it's fine. It's the tank heal. That's what it's made to be. I think it's perfectly fine. Fix this ability for the love of God. It or just change it to something else because or change the tooltip where it says after 4 seconds the tune begins because it doesn't do it after two. These abilities are fine. I don't have any issue with any of these. That's pretty much it. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Am I an idiot? I don't do the Master Staff build. I did the Necro Bomber build, and it was a lot of fun for a while, but I got bored of it, so I moved on. And, and really, Dark Convergence was the way I went for a long time, but now I only do it for Mid-Year Mayhem. Without Mid-Year Mayhem, the build I do right now is Heartland's Conqueror, and I think King Slayer. And the reason why I did that is because, well, I have issues I won't get too heavily into because this video is long enough. But I always forget to cast this because it's an ability that you have to cast on someone. It's a targeted ability, whereas Rally, the two-handed major brutality buff isn't. The crit surge isn't. The Warden one isn't. You know, you can just go on your back bar, buff it, and then go back to your front bar. Well, I can't do that, and I keep forgetting. So in order to counter that, I got King Slayer, because that way I just have major brutality all the time, so I don't forget. Plus, it gives me a boost of speed whenever I kill an enemy, which is really helpful because necromancer can be a little like pretty much you need to be a vampire for movement. Otherwise, you're kind of like a DK. You're kind of just there. That's really it for this video, guys. I don't know what you think. I think necromancer needs love. It really does. Group content, it's probably still it's probably still okay. PVE, it's fine. PVE, I have no problems with necromancer at all. Besides that, this is hard to weave, so I go with another spammable. But that's about it. I have no problems with necromancer and PVE. PvP is just, it's hard to slot these abilities. This one, by the time you summon it, usually the fight's over. These are situational. This is great. This is slow. This people can see coming a mile away. So yeah. Let me know what you think. Are you excited? Maybe quarter 3 they'll do something. You never know. Honestly, you really don't. I get that this, Necrom had to be arcane focused. Made a lot of sense, even though my class suffered for it. So be safe out there, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the video, and subscribe to my channel because it's a really great way to support me and show me that you at least happily enjoy my content. But if you don't want to, that's fine too. I'm not gonna hold a gun to your head or anything that's messed up. Do what you want. But I'll see you in the next one, guys. Be safe.